Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. I'd like to welcome everyone to the first Board of Ed meeting for 2022. I will ask that we will officially call this meeting to order. First, let's please rise and pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, I'd like to offer a moment of silence, please, for Michael Georgian, a special education supervisor from 1987 to 2006, and Frida Turlwiger, an ID secretary from 1969 to 1994. Thank you. Next, with staff and student recognition, Dr. Carbone.
Good evening. I would like to recognize Principal DeLeo from Hubbell Elementary School. After hosting the Central Connecticut State University interns last year with great success at Hubbell School, Mrs. DeLeo was asked by the coordinator of the School Community Partnership School of Education and Professional Studies at Central Connecticut State University to take on a cohort of second-year elementary education students from CCSU to complete field experience hours at Hubbell. 28 CCSU students have joined the classrooms alongside Hubbell teachers this past semester. After the CCSU coordinator and professors visited Hubbell, they saw that their students were learning a great deal from the Hubbell teachers and are working in such a positive way to join within our Bristol Public Schools community and the Hubbell school community. They are excited, and we're excited to extend this partnership and now have asked Mrs. DeLeo to continue this partnership into the spring semester with future CCSU School of Education projects. And Ms. DeLeo, I believe you're on line this evening. And if you could just share what your role will be serving on this Teacher Education Network Advisory Board.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Carbone. First of all, I just want to say it was a true pleasure to work with all of the CCSU students and see their exciting faces walk through the door at the beginning of the year when we were uncertain if they were even going to be able to join us. So we were excited about that. And it was not too long that the CCSU students started to build relationships with our teachers, our Hubbell teachers, that I want to give a big shout out to, because I think the teachers at first were a little bit nervous because they were like, what am I supposed to do? What's my purpose here? So as we kind of took our CCSU students under our wings, we quickly figured out that it was a joy to have them in the classroom, and the kids were so super excited to see them every day and building these strong relationships. The teachers quickly figured out exactly what it was that they needed to do. So the teachers taught them how to run small groups and teach one-to-one foundation skills, read to the students. They worked on different activities to support literacy and math. And before long, we set up little stations outside of the classrooms, in the classrooms. And when the coordinator and the professors came over, they were just amazed at how quickly their students were able to absorb what the teachers at Hubbell taught them, and they wanted to extend this partnership. So my role on this board is to talk with the members and talk about how we're going to align the different practices that the students are learning in the classroom, and then have the teachers teach them. So for example, if they're learning about guided reading in the classroom at a certain point in the semester, then we're going to focus on guided reading and having the students learn that at the same time. And we're just going to pretty much align our practices to support the new teachers so they could get the real-time field experience right at Hubbell. And one of the professors is super excited because he has some great ideas for a book he's writing, and he wants to do some on-site things with us in the spring. So I'm very excited to join the board and help new teachers really figure out what it is they need to do in the classroom with kids and with teachers that is different, as they have talked to us about, from just sitting in the classroom and talking about it, but just to get their hands in and have that on site learning is a real joy for all of us. So I just wanted to tell you that it is a pleasure and we're excited about this new partnership.
Thanks, Principal DeLeo. And we're excited because this creates a pipeline for future employment with the Bristol Public Schools. And they also get to understand what our expectations of future teachers are. So thank you very much for your leadership.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the approval of minutes.
I'd like to put forward a motion to approve the 12/1/21 Board of Ed regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I will be abstaining as I was not here. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Next, we will have our committee reports. And before I pass the microphone to my colleagues, I would like to officially read into the record the Communication and Community Relations Committee that will be chaired by Kristen Giantonio, Commissioner Kristen Giantonio. Commissioner Shelby Pons and Commissioner Dante Tagriello will be joining that, with Commissioner Eric Carlson as the alternate. And next, to discuss the Finance Committee, Commissioner Tagriello.
Thanks, Your Honor. I really don't have any updates from the Finance Committee. We just went through the budget and there were no significant items to report out there. But the one update that I do have for the public and for everyone here is a reminder that our budget workshops for the Board of Education will be held on the 18th of January and the 25th of January here in this auditorium from 6 to 8 p.m. As you know, I had sent an email to the mayor to let him know of those items, and I will be sending an email to the rest of the city council so that they can be apprised of those dates and hopefully join us as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, to discuss operations, Commissioner Carlson. He's not on. He was going to be logging in. Okay, we can come back to him and move on to personnel. Commissioner Skolinka, do you want to give us any updates?
I don't have any updates at this time.
We'll move on to policy. Commissioner Giantonio.
Good evening. This month's policy committee meeting was held on 12/22. What we discussed primarily was a change to policy 5132, the student dress and girding policy, which you will hear in more detail in our deliberated items further in the agenda. I also requested a discussion on policy 3520.13, which is database information management systems. And I asked our leadership team if we can invite our information technology experts into the district to present to the policy committee next month in regards to using encryption in certain emails or passing documents to families. So we look forward to that information in next month's meeting. We reviewed and approved our 2022 meeting calendar and we adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, for student achievement, Commissioner Sturgeon.
Thank you. Quickly, we met on December 15th of 21 for the Student Achievement Committee. We had two votes and decisions were made to move to the full board the revised curriculum for SAT math, as well as a revised curriculum for statistics and geometry. And we'll see those later on tonight. There was also the first reading of new curriculums specifically for BAMES, for instrumental ensemble, intermediate acting, musical theater, physical theater, and movement. And then we adjourned our meeting at 7:15. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will check in one more time to see if Commissioner Carlson has joined us live. Okay. All right. Thank you. Next, we will move on to our student representative reports. First up, representing Bristol Central will be Fatima Amir.
Good evening, board members. Today I will be reporting on Bristol Central High School for the month of December. There have been many positive events which have taken place over the past month. Ending the fall sports season, the Fall Sports Awards Night was held on December 2nd congratulating all the athletes and celebrating their accomplishments. With the fall season ending, the winter sports season has begun. Basketball has started off the season strong, one of the highlights being the game at Mohegan Sun against East Catholics. Central took the victory against East Catholic, which really made up for them not being able to play last year due to COVID. And I'm sure it must have felt rewarding to the players and made them appreciate the moment as everything feels normal now. The National Honor Society wrapped up their food drive for Zion Lutheran Church in Bristol. They were able to donate over 500 food items to them with the help of all who donated. As the winter break was approaching, the winter concert put the students and staff in the holiday spirit. They performed What You Gonna Bring for Christmas by Andy Beck and The Winter's Night by Nicholas Myers, along with many other pieces that wowed the audience. There was an in-school concert on the Tuesday before break, which set the mood for Festivus and was a great way to end the day. Leading up to Festivus, the Student Council planned Spirit Week. Students were really able to show their holiday spirit by wearing ugly sweaters and dressing up as holiday movie characters. The annual Festivus was held on December 22nd and brought joy and laughter to all. Last year, due to COVID, Festivus was held virtually, which made it very hard for everyone to enjoy the fun activities. Thankfully, this year, Festivus was able to return and fill the gym with the cheering and laughs of many students, teachers, and staff members. This made everything seem as close to normal as before. Students competed in games against each other, from riding scooters across the gym and catching ping pong balls and cups. There was also Central Trivia, which the students enjoyed participating in. The Central dance team didn't fail to amaze the crowd. They performed enthusiastically, transferring their positive energy into the crowd. With the semester coming to an end and midterms coming up, students have been wrapping up their work and working hard to meet deadlines while preparing for midterms. Many teachers provide after-school help for students who need to clear up concepts and be as prepared as possible. These will prove very beneficial for students because they now don't have to be at the disadvantage of asking for help via email. We can't wait to start off this next semester strong after successfully completing midterms, and I can't wait to be back to report for the month of January. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, representing Bristol Eastern will be Pushpita Hussain.
Hello, everyone. I wish you all a happy new year and hope that the holidays have treated you well. I am Pushpita Hussain, one of the junior representatives along with Max Davins. I'll be reporting on Bristol Eastern for the month of December. Though this month was shorter than the others due to our winter break, this report will consist of the beginnings of winter sports, different events and activities, as well as the updates on academics and extracurriculars. To start, indoor track had their first meet over the winter break. Students ran incredibly well and have qualified for Class L championships and pole vaults. The team has a nice blend of youth and veteran leadership. The coach himself stated that the team is excited to continue building confidence and compete. Both the wrestling and basketball teams have also had their first meetings, as well as some small matches in practice. December involved quite a lot of fun and eventful activities. For one, before staff and students left for the break, the reindeer games took place, which was broken up by freshmen and juniors, and then sophomores and seniors. Those who were willing to participate in minute-to-minute games were called down as students in the audience cheered. It ended the year 2021 on an enjoyable note. Unfortunately, some of our awaited events, such as the winter concert, were canceled due to reported positive COVID-19 cases. And Bristol Eastern Lancer Nation had decided to conduct a door decorating contest where homerooms would participate along with their teachers to create unique and entertaining decor on their doors all throughout the hallways. We have received quite a lot of support and participation from these students and staff, showing off their competitive nature. It was a great way to increase school spirit throughout the building. As for extracurriculars, Amnesty Club was created in Bristol Eastern High School early December, a club that is deeply related and connected to the Amnesty International organization. The Diversity Club has been approved to hold a Culture Diversity Day sometime in March. It is still in the planning process, but the members have a desire to create an inclusive and educational day to represent themselves, each other's cultures, and diverse backgrounds. There are plans for donations to help people in need for both of these hardworking clubs. A major upcoming event that will be occurring soon is the 8th grade open house. Due to COVID-19, it will not be in person, but now will be held virtually. It will be held January 11th at 6 p.m. and will give families attending Bristol Eastern High School next year a chance to familiarize themselves with our staff and course offerings. Finally, a quick update on academics. We are now nearing the end of the semester and midterms are approaching quickly. Students and teachers are preparing for these upcoming exams. Avid students are continuing their productive ways, finding strategies and creating plans to improve their own academic performance, and just attended a trip to Yukon right before the holiday break. Bristol Eastern continues to strive and work for the best as the new year begins and the semester ends. With all the fun events that have occurred, we are back and ready for the rest of the school year. This brings it to the end of my December report for Bristol Eastern High School. Thank you for listening and have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Before I move on to my chair report, I am going to welcome Commissioner Carlson, who can give the Operations Committee report, please, at this time.
Good evening. Sorry, I'm a little late here. We held our regular meeting on 12-22, where we went over the capital improvement projects for the upcoming 10-year cycle, I believe. The Operations Committee also held 2 meetings concerning the roof replacement at Edgewood School and underground storage tanks, fuel, diesel and fuel oil replacement. And we chose the architects for those 2 projects. Those things will be coming up. Those are on schedule to be done sometime this year, but due to supply concerns, we may have to push that off a little bit into next year. And that's my report.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Carlson. All right, we'll move on to the chair report. I want to welcome everybody and wish everyone a happy and healthy new year. I am cautiously optimistic and very prayerful that this year will finally bring a sense of normalcy to our precious students and to our staff. I also want to say that I do look very much forward to working alongside this new board, as well as central office, to have great strides made for our district. To piggyback off of what Commissioner Tagliaferro had shared, I also want to formally invite any members of the public to the budget workshops. I think it's imperative that everybody who is invested in our students and a taxpayer in the city come and learn what it takes to create the budget and to set it forth in motion. So I would ask anybody who is interested to please come and check us out on January 18th and January 25th. That will conclude my report for this evening, and I will now turn it over to Dr. Carbone.
Good evening. Before I begin my formal report for this evening, as you know, earlier today, I did make a school delay notification and then move that into a cancellation much later than normal. It is my normal operating procedure to make these decisions prior to 5 in the morning and then beginning that communication out, whether it is a delay or a school cancellation. Unfortunately, the sudden icing and the length of time that the freezing rain remained, the road conditions did not improve to allow us to open even on a delay. For those who were en route to work or in transit, I apologize for the angst that this morning's commute caused. In reference to district priorities and indicators, especially in regard to organizational and operational effectiveness, we've had many updates and changes in our protocols. We have been in receipt of KN95 masks from the state. Those masks have been delivered to the city, as well as an allotment that has been provided to the Bristol Board of Education. We have distributed those KN95 masks for our staff, and staff are currently using them as we see an uptick in COVID-19 cases across the district. We also have received at-home test kits, some allocated for staff and some allocated for students. A staff member may receive a at-home test kit if they're exhibiting symptoms between 9 and 11 or 1 to 2:30 here at the board. And already 40 kits have been picked up. We are seeing an increase of staff that are currently out due to having COVID. Additionally, families that feel that their child are exhibiting symptoms and need an at-home test kit can call their school nurse and receive a kit that will be made available through the Bristol Burlington Health District nurses at the main office. And if someone is unable to pick that up, Bristol Burlington Health District will make arrangements for one to be provided and delivered to their home. As we turn the page to 2021, 2022, we'd like to look ahead to our indicators of success. We have set 6-year goals and reevaluated those goals at the beginning of this school year. And next slide, please. The priority indicators of success that range from 2019 through 2024 have yearly indicators with the goal that we would reach those indicators at the conclusion of the school year 2023-2024. I bring some of these to your attention today and will highlight a few of them. There are 10 in particular. In the year in review that you will be receiving in January, you will see a look behind and a look ahead. So where we are currently in our progress towards these indicators and also where we are headed for the back half of the 21-22 school year. I call your attention to a few of these items. In particular, by the end of this school year, we would like 71% of our high school students to take a college-bearing course and or have a college career experience while they are in high school. Our goal is 72% for 2024. However, at the end of the school year, we'd like 71% of our students to have already achieved this goal. Similarly, in 2024, we want at least 96% of our grade 9 students on track to graduate on time. This school year, the marker is 94%. Coming up to the conclusion of the first semester, we will be looking at our data to ensure that we are moving in the direction of having our 9th graders on track. In reference to 8th grade students who are demonstrating the ability to and the skills needed to be successful in algebra, our goal for 2024 is 63% of our students. However, at the end of this year, we expect that 50% of our students will meet this marker. In 3rd grade, we expect 60% this year of our 3rd graders to be reading at benchmark in grade 3. And by 2024, 70% of our students to be making that academic milestone. There are a few of these that obviously we set prior to the pandemic, because in 2029, these were academic markers that we set and projected out for 6 years. And the next one, attendance, is a great example of where we may have been if we did not have a pandemic for the past 2 years. But our projection was that we would have less than 5% of our students being identified as chronically absent or missing more than 10% of the school day. In 2018, 2019, we were actually at 9.6%. At the end of this school year, we had projected that we would be at 6.5%. And we can already tell you that we will not achieve that milestone based on the quarantine measures and families being more cautious around sending their child to school during the school year, in both this school year and last. Additionally, we have a marker of success that 100% of our students will identify a caring adult or an adult in the school that offers them support and guidance. That goal is 100% by the end of the school year, and that goal sunsets and then should be maintained. Last school year, 84% of our students were able to identify a caring adult. The goal is to meet 100% so that each one of our scholars has someone that they can trust and confide in. And lastly, by 2024, the Bristol Public Schools will continue to fully execute the reimagining plan and the 2023 facilities and operational plan to ensure that all of our students meets clear and challenging expectations in well-appointed schools. And later this evening, you will hear more progress towards that end as we investigate and begin to launch our BAMES program, hear about family community involvement with that program, and also move the projects at Edgewood and Northeast. Additionally, and since I just mentioned BAMES, I'd like to give the community update on where we are with BAMES. During our first lottery for our 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade students, 141 students have accepted a seat in our new school, Bristol Arts and Innovation Magnet School, which is excellent considering that was the first round. Our second round begins in a week. We have begun the hiring process and will bring to the board next month the members of our current staff who have applied and opted to interview for BAMES. And they will be transitioning into those new roles at the beginning of next school year. And then this month is peppered with high school parent and student information sessions. We will have an orientation for grade 10 students. This coming week on January 10th, parents of grade 9 students at BE will have a parent orientation, and a component of that orientation will be a focus on BAMES and the electives offered. That is on the 11th of January. We will be traveling to both Northeast Middle School and Chippens Middle School to share with our rising 8th graders or new 9th graders how they can select electives that may be housed at BAMES if they are so interested in those pathways. And then on January 19th, there will be a Bristol Central, Bristol Eastern orientation for grade 10 families, whether it's a parent or a student from 5 to 6, that will be through Zoom. And lastly, BC will have their parent orientation for 9th grade, rising 9th graders on February 3rd. As mentioned by both Commissioner Tagliarelli and Chair Doobie, we have budget workshops coming up. It will be in a dual platform. You can either attend here at Church Street or through Zoom. They are scheduled for January 18th and January 25th respectively from 6 to 8 p.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We will now move on.
Chair?
to-
Through the
Yes.
chair, may I just want to make a comment about the superintendent's report, if that's okay?
Sure.
Commissioner Vibert, two things, actually. One of them is I was very happy to hear about the success of the program where each student identifies with one adult that they can count on. We've been working on that for a while, and that's very heartwarming to hear. Secondly, please don't beat yourself up about what happened this morning. It happened all over the state. Districts all over the state were dealing with the same thing. The weather was just crazy. I know of one district that ended up having high school go forward for the day because they were already there. So they're going to have a terrible thing to deal with at the end of the year. But the high school students having completed 180 days and the other students have not. So you did the best you could. Don't beat yourself up. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the consent agenda. I'll make a motion to approve items 8A1 through 8A3. I'll accept a motion. I will not make one.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. And next we will move on to public comment. Do we have a list, please, for public comment?
There was a sign up downstairs.
Okay, does anybody have the downstairs sign up sheet handy, please? Okay. Was it only? Okay. Well, you don't have any emails? Okay. Okay. Okay, while they're looking into that, would one of you like to start with public comment? Thanks.
I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it tonight, but I'm glad I did. We're doing a
Excuse me, we can't hear very well, or I can't anyway.
Is it on now?
There you
Okay.
go. Thanks.
Start over. Did you get my name?
I did. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know.
It's just go ahead. It's
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
So I'm kind of alarmed to hear we're doing a virtual open house. How does that benefit the children? This madness has to end. The children are really suffering here. And it is evident when we see the numbers. That was alarming in the ed site. I mean, it says for Connecticut, our goals for math for ELA are like a 67, and we want the kids to be at a 50%. That's really, really, that's upsetting. And I mean, with all this madness, I have to say, I received a call that my child was a close contact from 10 days before, late on a Sunday afternoon. And so she didn't have a snuffle or a sniffle. I sent her to school. I got a call the last hour of the day that she needed to be picked up because of this close contact that the child on the bus said she sits with my child. An 8-year-old said she sits with my child. My children say my child sits by herself. So the last hour of the day, I was called to say she had to be picked up, where I said, she's not a close contact. She does not sit with this child. So the principal calls me back, says she sits in the row in front of her, come pick her up, but she can come back tomorrow. So she had to be picked up for the last hour of the day, but was able to return the following day. How does this make any sense? My neighbor gets off the bus. She sits next to the child that had COVID. I mean, mind you, it was day 10 that I was even informed that she was a close contact, which it wasn't even a close contact, but we're going off of children's words. Which child are we going to believe? The 8-year-old who said she sits with my child, or my child who says she doesn't sit with this child? And then she was sent home the last hour of the day after being in school for 8 days without a sniffle. And I don't know where Bobby is today, but his whole attendance here has been obviously for intimidation, right? We have to be escorted in, escorted out. And so the last meeting, he said, well, I'm here because of the homeless people. You know, the homeless people, they're frightening. They're right over there. I said, well, you weren't here the last meeting. He said, well, I wasn't invited for the special session. I'm not called in for the special session. So obviously it's not about the homeless people, right? He's not here for the homeless people. He's just using it as an excuse, disparaging them for, I don't really know why. They're harmless. They're there all the time. But anyway, that's all I have for tonight. This whole madness has to end. The kids are really suffering. Good night.
Thank you. All right, next I'm going to call, my New Year's resolution is to pronounce your name properly. Lauren Vernalia.
Thank you. Am I being timed? Just checking there, Mike. Thanks. All right. So, Dr. Carbone, I'm actually going to tell you that I think you did something right. On December 17th, when there was all of that, rigmarole about the threats and the whatnot that were going around on social media, you didn't close the school down. You didn't, cater to that and give more attention to it than it should have been. What was given was the opportunity for parents to make a choice about whether they wanted to send their child to school or not, given that. I sent my kids to school, and then during the middle of the day, my daughter was texting me because the teachers kept talking about guns, and it was making her anxious. So I decided I was going to pick my kids up. And it was great. I didn't get a single judgment. I didn't get anything. They said, no problem. We totally understand. I took my kids, no problem, because I was given a choice. See, that's what parents are looking for. They're looking for a choice. All this madness, all you people who want to wear your little face diaper, that's great. Wonderful. Have at it. My whole house had COVID. We're all fine. Didn't feel good for a while. Yeah, great. I understand that people died. Children are not dying. Children are suffering incredibly from mental health issues in relation to this. And I'm not talking out of my ass because I have been a licensed clinical social worker for 18 years plus. So my point is that my daughter begging me for antidepressants, virtual freaking whatever, 8th grade orientation, 9th grade orientation. My daughter had an insane amount of anxiety. The 5th grade to 6th grade transition, she got 65 pictures of the library at Northeast, had no clue what the hell was going on and was terrified all summer. But that's okay. Let's just worry about this imaginary bug that's going around that now everybody and their brother has, because we've got 1,000 freaking tests going out. Because guess what? It's not going to go away. And we can't play God, because a virus is going to do what a virus is going to do. And if we had let it run its course like it's doing right now, a year ago, we wouldn't be where we are now. Our kids are suffering. They are suffering. My daughter sits alone at lunch. She's been moved again. My son has plexiglass up in his freaking library again. Like, what do you think we're teaching these kids at this point? That their friends are toxic? Like, what are you deluding yourselves? Like, seriously? Oh, sure, because none of them hang out with each other outside of school. It's ludicrous. And I don't care. You want to hide behind the governor and his Hitler-like ways. That's all great and fine. Stand up, because if you have a heart, if you have any sort of soul in there, then fight for the kids and stop hiding behind the politics. And I'm done standing up here and being nice and quiet and diplomatic and calm and having my nice little notes. I'm done.
Through the chair, the time has expired.
And that's fine, because I am done.
Thank you. Ms. Daly, were we able to procure any of the online? Okay, thank you. Okay, was there anybody who was on our online platform who wished to speak? Okay, the last person who's going to speak in public comment today is Kristen Giantonio.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Giantonio. I am a commissioner, but I'm here this evening to speak in public comment as a parent and a member of the community. I'm at Allentown Road, Bristol, Connecticut. I wanted to come today to alert the board, my colleagues, staff, and the community about an article I read this week in the New York Times. I don't have written prepared remarks, so I'm going to try to make my points brief, and I apologize for not being able to have a composed response. But the name of the article, and if you get an opportunity to read it, is called "No Way to Grow Up." And the headline caught my eyes because I am a parent in this community. I also grew up, and I have great memories of my childhood. I have probably some not great memories of my childhood, like many other people in our community. So even if you don't have a child in the school system, I know you all remember what it was like to grow up. The title of the article drove me to it right away. No Way to Grow Up. The very first line in the article: for the past 2 years, Americans have accepted more harm to children in exchange for less harm to adults. And that really hit me, because I think it articulated in one concise sentence the observations that I have made in probably the latter part of the 2 years of this epidemic. Some of the descriptions in the article talk about the toll on children falling far behind in school, many children and teenagers experiencing mental health problems, suicide attempts rising, gun violence against children increasing. Many schools have still not returned to normal, worsening learning loss and social isolation, behavior problems increasing, and the article goes on, and the hard choices that are being made by those of us in the community who are stuck between making decisions about safety with our children being involved. So why I bring this up? I bring this up because I think it's important as parents in the community, members of the community, staff members of the school board, and those who are in control of the education of our children, that we be mindful of the language that we use in front of children. During stressful times, we tend to focus on the stress around protocols and safety and anxiety and tests, and children overhear everything we discuss. They may not come to us and complain about what they're hearing. They may not say that anything is bothering them, but like little sponges that they are, they listen and observe, and they watch the adults around them, and they listen to the adults around them. And too many children internalize the stresses and the anxieties that the outward forces put upon them. With that being said, I would like us to use better language when we talk about privileges in the school environment and their relation to safety protocols. We need to make sure that we're not using stigmatizing language by breaking our children into certain groups, certain categories, certain this and certain that, who has and who has not been X, Y, or Z when we talk about what they can and cannot do in
Through
the
the
school
chair, the
environment.
time has expired.
I want the stigmatizing language to be gone and the anxiety that it brings upon our children, whether we observe it or not. I'm asking that we all be mindful and not use safety to control stigmatizing children into groups. And I think that's going to be important as the policies continue to change moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair. I do have the comment, the email from Mr. Campbell, who he emailed Ms. Everett today, and it seems that they don't have it here, but I'd like to read it into the public comment.
Is that?
He's not able to. We have another parent who did not speak who's willing to read it.
That's fine. If you'd like to go ahead and read it, Commissioner Sturgeon, you're more than welcome to. Thank you.
Thank you. This email was from Paul Campbell. My name is Paul Campbell, 183 Sims Road, Bristol. After nearly 2 years, it is overly clear that these restrictions on our children don't work. Parents need to have the choice to mask their kids or not. Continuing to run our schools like prisons with no regard for the mental health crisis that is building is completely unacceptable. Calling the police on parents at a BOE meeting was completely inappropriate and unacceptable. Hiding behind the governor's orders and refusing to show any empathy for parents' strong but very real concerns is unacceptable. I hope for a better 2022 for all of us. Mr. Paul Campbell. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to our deliberated items and district leadership team reports to discuss the 2022-2023 capital improvement plan. Pete Fusco.
Good evening. I would like to talk about the capital improvement plan and discuss how the moves that we made on this plan align with the reimagining Bristol Public Schools plan. So what I'd like to start off with is year 22-23. We are looking to go forward and ask for 220 75-inch interactive smartboard replacements for our classrooms. That will bring technology directly to the classroom and to the student. We're asking for $1.3 million. In addition to that, this year, we will be going forward to ask the city to give us we're asking for $75 million to do a renovation project at Northeast Middle School. Jumping to 23-24, you can see I pulled $2 million from what was allotted in 27-28, moved it forward for Edgewood School for a target renovation. The renovation would include heating, piping, abatement work with hazardous materials, and fire protection system, as well as some power upgrades. Any questions or concerns so far as I go through this plan? If no questions, I'll move on to year 24-25. You'll see that I have money allotted for Bristol Eastern and Bristol Central roof and rooftop mechanical replacements. We're looking at the sum of just over $14 million. We currently have roofs that are beyond their warranty, so it is out-of-pocket expense whenever we have a failure. So we are due for that. In year 25-26, we have $49 million allotted for a renovate is new at Stafford School. Stafford School has gone through several life cycles. The fire protection system there dates back to 1987. So predictive maintenance is telling me that if we do not look at doing an upgrade or a renovation at that school, I will have problems supporting the systems. Manufacturers it's getting harder and harder to get supplies from manufacturers for power supplies and other devices. Any questions on 25-26? Okay, hearing no questions, we move on to 26-27. You'll see I'm going back into the high schools looking for $30 $3,200,000 and $3,600,000. And that would give me the ability to go into Bristol Eastern High School and address the boilers, which are original to the school, as well as I'd like to get into both auditoriums because in 1999, the hazardous material, the asbestos was not addressed, was not taken out. And that has kept us from doing some repairs. If you've been in the auditorium, you know that we have broken seats and some lighting issues. And I would like to get in and do some exterior door work as well. We've got rotted doors. So those would be target renovations that I would go after back into the high schools. And in 27, 28, I am looking to take $3 million, go into Hubble School, go after their boilers, replace them. We have packaged hydronic boilers that are original to the school. There's a lot of hazmat around the boilers, has abatement work, and also the school needs exterior doors. And last but not least, we're looking to do a renovation at Southside School. And that pretty much sums up the capital improvement plan. Any questions? Anything I can answer?
Hearing none, I think you're all set. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
I'm looking for a motion to approve the BPS 2022-2023 capital improvement plan.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Motion passes. Next will be the approval of the Board of Education 2022 meeting dates. You can see those in your agenda, and I will accept a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Next, we will approve the Communications and Community Relations 2022 meeting dates. You can see them also in your agenda for this evening. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Next, to discuss our Special Services Leadership Team Report will be Kim Culkin. Dr. Kim Culkin.
Hi, good evening and Happy New Year. I'm here to give you a brief report for our enrollment through our month of November. So as of December 1st, our students in Bristol, of our 8,104 students, we had 1,671 students identified as students requiring special education programming. And that represents 20.62% of total Bristol Public School student population. Also during the month of November, 19 of 58 newly enrolled or newly registered students, which is approximately 32.76% of students newly entering Bristol, came to us already receiving and requiring special education services at the time of registration. Also of note, during the month of November, 2 students newly registering in Bristol were already receiving their programming and services in out-of-district special education programs at the time of their enrollment. As of December 1st, 111 of our 1,671 students identified for special education services were requiring out-of-district placements for special education programming, and 71 students were attending magnet or public out-of-district school programs, also requiring special education services during their attendance. These numbers do reflect 3 additional private out-of-district program placements and 5 additional public school placements as compared to the overall out-of-district placements the prior month. And that is my report for you this evening. I'm happy to take questions if you have any.
Through the chair.
Sure.
Good evening, Dr. Colkin. I had a question about when can the board anticipate, and the reason why I'm asking this super early, I know I'm probably going to take some heat for this, but it is January and I know we all anxiously await for the summer for probably many, many different reasons. And I wanted to know when the board was going to find out how summer programming will be presented for our students who receive special services, considering the circumstances that happened last year. And I'd like
Right.
to avoid those same set of situations and circumstances this year, especially the difference between in-person summer for non-special services students versus the virtual only offering for special services students. So I'm hoping that we're
Yeah,
not going to
understandable.
encounter that again this summer. So I look forward to hearing about when we would hear about whether or not that summer programming has been resolved.
So we've started some of the work on identifying what our summer programming options would be for ESY and planning forward. In fact, earlier this week, well, it's Wednesday, so it was only within the past couple of days since we're back from the new year. We've started some of that planning and discussion to look at what our needs might be and some of the options that might avail our staff to be more available to provide our ESY in person, because our primary focus is to be able to provide the ESY in person this school year. And so over the course, perhaps at the February Board of Education meeting, if I am asked if it's the right time to provide an update at that point in time, I'd be happy to do that.
Great, that's great. And if you could also provide for us the mitigation strategies that you'll be using in case circumstances change with staff and personnel as we move closer to the summer. I look forward to hearing those updates.
Do you mean for the ESY programming?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll now move on to curriculum revisions. To discuss our SAT math would be Dr. Reckenberg, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am bringing forth a second reading of the SAT Mathematics curriculum. This is a renamed course and revised. It was previously known as SAT Prep. This course is providing students with the opportunity to review the mathematics used on the college prep tests, such as SAT and ACT. There are three major areas of study within this course. It's the heart of algebra, problem solving and data analysis, and passport to advanced math. Students who are enrolled in this course get 1/4 of a credit. This course cannot be used towards the mathematics requirement for graduation. I'm happy to entertain any questions about this.
I don't believe there are any questions, and as this is a second reading, you are looking for a motion to approve.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. And next, Dr. Reckenberg can discuss statistics and geometry.
This is also a second reading. On the previous slide, you'll note that one of those major sections of the SAT is problem solving and data analysis. As we revised this curriculum, we wanted to make sure that our students had access to statistics, topics, and concepts prior to taking the SAT. So what we did was our teachers and our math coaches worked to pull back on some of the geometry content that was not showing up on those assessments to make room so that our students could have access to stats. This is a full credit course, and we're excited to continue our trajectory towards IM, and all of the units from this course come from the IM platform. At this time, I'll take a motion to approve or any questions.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I only have a comment. I want to thank Dr. Reckenberg and the team for carefully considering what best prepares our students for SAT curriculum and what aligns with making sure that they receive the material and the exposure to what they're going to be tested on in order to further their academic career. Thank you for paying close attention to that and making the appropriate changes to help our students. I appreciate it.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
And here to share some first readings is Ms. Carly Fortin.
I think I am now. Good evening, commissioners. First, let me share that Dr. Sarli regrets not being able to present the curriculum here this evening, and I'm happy to do so in her place. These 4 new courses that you're about to hear about were presented as a preview to Student Achievement Committee on December 15th, and they're here for your first reading tonight. If you have any questions about the 4 courses in the intervening time after I present this evening, you can certainly feel free to reach out to Dr. Sarli. So I'm going to begin with Instrumental Ensemble. Instrumental Ensemble is a full year or 1 credit course with no prerequisites. Instrumental Ensemble is similar to band in that students perform music of varied styles in concert halls and different venues. This course can range in size from being a small band to a large concert band. Students will be required to participate in performances throughout the school year. What you will notice is that the 8 units are based on the fundamentals of playing an instrument without a specific focus on ensemble skills, since the size of that group will affect the ensemble skills that will need to be taught. We had a few teachers within our district help to support the writing of this curriculum, so I'd like to take this public opportunity to thank them. That was Lisa Carroll, Lindsay DePietro, Teresa McDonald, and Andrew Most. I will say too, sometimes we, as we're presenting our potential courses for BAMES, we receive the question about whether students will be able to take instrumental ensemble at Bristol Ames in addition to their band course at the high school. And so I thought I would take a moment to help clarify that. Every student at our high school has 8 potential opportunities to take a course, so the 8 periods across 2 days in their schedule. For a freshman, they would need 4 core classes. That's what you're familiar with: English, social studies, science, and mathematics. That leaves 4 potential openings. One of those must be taken up by the requirements of physical education and health, leaving 3 opportunities for electives. Often students will take a world language as one of those opportunities, but they could also take a band course back at their home high school, while also taking the remaining 2 electives over at Bristol Ames. So I thought that question might come up, so I wanted to anticipate that and provide you with that information. As I said, Instrumental Ensemble, this is a first read for that course. It will be presented next month for your approval. Next, we have Intermediate Acting, which is a half credit course, so it will run for a semester. And again, there are no prerequisites for students to take this course. Students will learn the fundamentals of acting through improvisation, scene work, monologues, and large group performances. This course encompasses these 7 units where the skills are scaffolded and are built upon one another. Unique to this theater course is that there is not a culminating performance. Rather, students will have small scale performances throughout the various units aligned to the technique being learned. Again, this is a first read, so if you have any questions now, I can answer those, or we could move to the next, or you could also email Dr. Sarli, email or call Dr. Sarli in the intervening month. Any questions now while you have me? Doesn't sound like it. Okay, so musical theater. Musical theater is a half credit course with no prerequisites. However, this course will be offered only in the spring semester. And that's typically because both of our comprehensive high schools offer their musical productions in the spring. Students will learn the basics of musical theater while creating and performing a showcase, featuring production numbers from musicals focused on a common theme. Because this course culminates with a final performance, the units are scaffolded to support the creative musical theater process. For example, Unit 4 focuses on students' individual growth and performance, which leads to the collaborative showcase development of Unit 5. I think this course in particular provides an opportunity for me to highlight how exciting this is to potentially have one course at a location that could significantly affect and improve what's offered in all three of our schools. If you have Bristol Eastern, Bristol Central, and Bames, students here are going to be learning skills that would improve their musical theater performance, and then have the opportunity to audition and be a part of their musical shows back at their comprehensive high schools. So this one course at Bames, which is a brand new course for us in Bristol Public Schools, will have the opportunity not only to impact the students there at Bames, but also help our students bring those skills back to their core home schools. Any questions on musical theater? Okay, then the last, physical theater and movement, again, a half-credit course with no prerequisites. Through movement, students will learn how their bodies can be used to express meaning, emotion, and character. Students will learn the fundamentals of stage combat and about stock characters through the study of Commedia dell'arte. This course is similar to intermediate acting, where there is no culminating performance. Rather, students will perform throughout each unit to show proficiency. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fortin. Next on our agenda is policy revision. I will turn that over to Dr. Dieter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening to the rest of the members of the Board of Ed, and Happy New Year. We did meet on 12/22 to discuss policy 5132, dressing and grooming. To give you a little bit of a background on dressing and grooming policy 5132 and the regulation. The admin regulation had been reviewed at a previous Board of Ed meeting. Subsequent to that meeting, there had been some concerns raised regarding the ability to identify to identify students, especially those students that were wearing hats and hoodies, as well as maybe a mask. At that point in time, as a result of those concerns, that regulation, the section of that regulation had been suspended by the Office of Superintendent on 12/20. At the 12/22 meeting, administrators from the high schools and middle schools presented their experiences as well as data to the subcommittee members at that meeting. And at that time, the members made a motion to remove the section from the administrative regulation and insert it into policy. So at this time, the policy subcommittee is seeking a motion and consideration of the following, that in the administrative regulation of 5132 to strike section E under minimum safe attire, which reads, at the high school level, hats and other headwear and hoodies are permitted as follows. Hats and other headwear must allow the face and ears to be visible to staff and not interfere with the line of sight of any student or staff. Hoodies must allow the face and ears to be visible to school staff. And to codify, so that would be stricken from the regulation, and the following would be codified in the policy, that hats or hoodies with the hood up are not to be worn inside Bristol Public School buildings or programs, and that hoodies are permitted to be worn with the hood down.
So moved.
Through the chair.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Go ahead, Commissioner Pence.
Yes, I just wanted to say a few things. When this became, well, my dog. Say a few things too. I'm sorry. Hold on. Okay. When this topic came up, when this was in the schools, principals or administrators were asked to tell kids that this was going to be changing mid-year. I've received a lot of feedback from community members, parents, administrators, teachers. I mean, I can't believe how much feedback I received over this topic. And I just feel like I think it's important that we stop for a minute and listen to what our community is saying to us about this. The things that I heard were, one, changing something mid-year is very confusing and not easy for administrators or teachers or students. And with all of the problems that we have in society right now and in the pandemic and kids coming back to school, regulating and policing something like a hood or a hat doesn't seem like it's at the top of our list of things to regulate. The day that it happened, I got phone calls from so many parents that their children were sent into, if they didn't remove their hats or their hoods, they were sent into a library or asked to actually go home. I mean, this doesn't impact learning. Wearing a hat or a hood absolutely does not impact learning. I also heard feedback that school buildings are cold and that kids are cold. I also heard feedback that kids are more comfortable with hoods up for many reasons, anxiety, social acceptance. Middle school, high school kids, they're struggling with a lot of issues. So I just think it's important that we don't over-regulate things that aren't important or connected to learning. I don't think people think there's a danger in our schools with kids wearing hats or hoods. I think our administrators know their students, their student population. And I just don't want to see us creating more problems that we don't need. So thank you for listening. I just felt it was important to represent the people that reached out to me and really think about this before we add another thing to our kids who are already struggling wearing masks. As what's been brought up over and over in these meetings is that our kids are dealing with so much already. Do we need to add another thing for them to deal with? Thank you.
Through the chair. Through the chair, this is Commissioner Vibert.
Yep, go ahead, Commissioner Vibert.
Thank you very much. I actually reached out to some of my teen friends that are in the Bristol Boys and Girls Club to talk about this. And we had some great comments. The teens are wearing hats for some of the following reasons. They wear them for fashion. They wear them, as Commissioner Pond said, for comfort. And this is an important one. They wear them to feel secure. And they wear them to represent their culture. They also, I did a lot of research, they also wear hoodies to honor their heroes who have worn hoodies. But they're not wearing them, and I specifically asked, and they, a lot of people think that they're wearing them as gang colors. They're not. They're wearing them for comfort, they're wearing them for their culture, they're wearing them for fashion. We just need to let them wear their hats and hoodies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I think some of the comments brought up by Commissioner Pons were very good ones. The concerns she had. I do worry about going down the slippery slope of why people wear certain bits of clothing and whatnot. But I did want to ask some clarification on why this policy change was made, because the way it was intimated to me was that there was an operational decision made to change it, and there was a reactive change in certain schools where students came immediately the next day with articles of clothing and were asked to change them. And so what the policy committee took up was, instead of having it be an operational decision that could happen in a reactive period, we codified it as an actual decision. Now, that's not saying that I want to support that particular position, but I just wanted to clarify that that was the reason why we changed it from an administrative decision to a codification. Is that correct? Do I understand that correctly?
Do you want to speak to that?
I can speak to that. There, with respect to the concerns that were brought up when we were initially alerted to a report of concerns, we did elicit responses from our administrative team. We collected data from them. We asked very pointed questions. And there were, they reported a half dozen instances where they had a concern that resulted in a delay of identifying a particular student. The administrators at the subcommittee meeting indicated that this was not an issue for them, that they didn't feel it was an issue, and that with the suspension of the administrative regulation, that there had been, since the suspension, there had been 3 instances that resulted in discipline with students. And while students came with concerns, students came and asked for justification, that most students could understand why it was suspended. And the administration was comfortable with a suspension till a time in the future. The decision to move it out of administrative regulation, I can't speak to that. That was the decision of the subcommittee members to move it out of administrative regulation into policy.
Through the chair. As chair of policy committee, I want to also deliver some feedback that I had received since that meeting. It was brought to my attention that a notice was sent out to high school students during advisory the same day that children were already at school, advising them that they can't wear their hoods or the hats. Now, some students already had hats on because they were not given proper notice before they arrived at school that day. I want to just reiterate that that was an administrative operational decision. That was not a decision of the policy committee. And the policy that we're considering this evening has not even been approved yet. So I just want to clarify some of the situations that happened to our students in the community that had nothing to do with the committee's work, and that those were decisions made at the administrative level in those buildings that caused angst and anxiety for some of our students. So we hear that. I just want to clear the record that that was not the work of the policy committee, and it's not the intent of this at all. Reiterate also what Commissioner Tagliaferro said is to take out the, if by removing it from the regulation allows a policy that is known and codified in the policy itself and is available for all to read and not under the subjective determinations of building admin. We did hear from some administrators that said that this was an issue from their school, but we also heard from another that said that they did have some concerns in some of the common areas. So I don't want there to be an overemphasis that there was only one opinion heard at that meeting. We also heard from 2 SROs regarding safety issues. And at that time, we were also under some increased concerns for student safety. I will speak to the fact that I do think that students, choose their clothing for a reason. I am really happy in my, at least, experience with hooded sweatshirts that most of the teams, heroes, sayings, anything that would be approved on the clothing would still be allowed. And that most of that representation is not on the hoods. They're on the sweatshirts themselves, which are still being allowed. So just a few points of clarification from the comments today.
Through the chair.
Go ahead.
Just like to add, as you know, we recently had a threat of violence within our school system. There have been acts of violence in other school systems. With kids already mandated to wear masks in school, then to put a hood or a hat on their head, and the only section of their face that we can see are their eyes, is a safety concern. And in this world in which we now live, which safety is paramount and everything revolves around safety, this is a safety concern. And possibly maybe this could be brought up again at some time when masks are no longer needed in our schools. But in the present day in which we live, to have a student with a mask up to their eyes and a hood around or a hat around their face in which you cannot see anything but their eyes is a safety concern. And I do think that this is an important policy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I understand that in theory that sounds scary, right? That you can only see their eyes, but I truly believe that our administrators and our teachers know their students. I don't think that we're in a district where our administrators and our teachers are not familiar and can recognize their students beyond wearing a mask or a hat or a hood. And also in examples of school violence, hats and hoods they're not something that's being worn. People who are committing horrible acts of school violence aren't trying to not hide their identity. They actually want their identity to be known. So I respect that in theory, it does sound scary, but I don't think it's a problem we have in Bristol. And the amount of parents and students and teachers and administrators who don't think that this is a good use of their time to police kids around wearing a hat or a hood in our schools, I think is important to listen to. So thank you.
All right,
Through the chair.
all set. Go ahead, Commissioner Skalenka.
All right, so I live this on a daily basis. I'm an SRO in a high school. I'll give you $1 for every kid that has his hood up that doesn't have AirPods in. I've spoken to, I'll tell you right now how many I've spoken to. Staff. I'm not interested in kids, to be honest with you. I'm interested in our staff. And I've spoken to over 175 staff members. And the word that I kept getting over and over again was when the kids wear their hoods, they're disengaged. That's a problem for me. Secondly, where I work, there's a lot of fights. And we have tremendous cameras. But the problem we have is we allow kids to wear hoodies. We're not saying you can't wear a hoodie. You just can't wear it on your head. What happens is, which scares me, is people think, well, it's Bristol, it's not going to happen here. It can happen anywhere. So that's the wrong attitude, number one. It can happen anywhere. And it would be my responsibility to engage that. And that's not what I want. So you can wear a hoodie, you just can't wear it on your head. Just like you can't wear AirPods in your ears. You can't wear hats. I get it. I have 2 kids that are in high school. They are not happy with me right now. But again, my concern is their education and their safety. Because when there's a fight and the kid has a hood on, guess what? Nike said, hey, I'm going to make more than one hoodie so I can make money. So you can't say, oh, they had a black hoodie on. Because I can't know who it is. So now your kid's assaulted and now you're upset because I can't identify them. It only has to happen once. And to have that mentality of it's in Bristol, it's not going to happen here. That concerns me a lot because that's not the mentality you can have here. It can happen anywhere. Do you think those people at those schools thought it was going to happen there? I bet you $100 they're going to say no. It happens anywhere. It doesn't have to do with masks on or anything off. This is a learning institute. It's not a DKN fashion show. Hoods are off, AirPods are off. I mean, it's simple. I get it, it's cold in the building. COVID's not going to be around forever. So they'll be able to temper the temperatures in the buildings better. It's like Commissioner Sturgis said, it's 100% a safety issue. And I live it every day. I'm the only one that sits on this board that does it every day and can attest to it that I see it every day, just like today. We're trying to identify a female from an altercation. Why? Because she had her hood up, ran by, whapped the girl in the head, pushed her into the locker, knocked down and took off. Can't find out who it is. But every other one that doesn't have a hood on, every staff member knows who it is. So, I mean, that's just my 4 cents to it. But please don't ever think it's never going to happen because that's the wrong attitude. We need to be proactive because I don't want to be reactive. I yield back.
Through the chair.
Go ahead.
I'd like to clarify that I didn't say it couldn't happen in Bristol. I never said anything couldn't happen in Bristol. What I said was I think our teachers and administrators recognize their students, and it's not a district where our schools are so big that we can't recognize them in a hat or a hood. That was my point. Not that I didn't think tragic, horrible things could happen. I'm very aware of the fact that tragic and horrible things can happen anywhere. But if you look at me on the screen right now, I have long hair, right? I mean, AirPods aren't really in question, are they? Because if they are, I could have AirPods in right now and you would not be able to see them. So I don't think the argument here is AirPods. I hear you that your argument is safety. And I understand that you do this every day as a police officer in another town. When you say you spoke to 175 teachers, is that in Bristol? Because that's what we're talking about right now is Bristol Public Schools. So with respect, honestly, John, I'm not saying this with any disrespect. I'm just representing the comments that I received, the feedback that I received from Bristol teachers, administrators, and families. And when you say you don't care about what kids think, I do care about what kids think. And if they're more comfortable in school, if they feel more secure, if they feel like they're not being judged, or if they're not being policed based on their attire, there's many reasons why kids wear hats and hoods, and non-white kids wear more hats and hoods, and a lot of times because of their hair. And I had parents reach out to me about that, talking about on the day that they were asked to take their hats off without warning, that their hair was an issue for them and that they needed to make sure that they felt comfortable. And I think about equity when we're having these conversations as well. And I'm just being honest and saying, if there's a true safety issue, I think it goes beyond hats and hoods, and we could talk about that, because I want our kids to be safe. But at the same time, I don't want dress code to be something that prohibits kids from feeling comfortable and being able to learn, because that's what our goals are. They're learning. They're having kids feel safe in their environment, and that means in what they're wearing so that they can be comfortable to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Through the
you.
chair.
Are there any commissioners who have yet to speak on this issue who want to speak on this issue?
Commissioner Wilson would like to speak.
Go ahead, Commissioner Wilson.
First of all, this looks to me like a solution looking for a problem. The people I spoke with did not deem it to be a problem. When I was reading the agenda and I saw this on the agenda, I happened to go to the grocery store at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I went to the grocery store yesterday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. And obviously at 7 o'clock in the morning, there are only people my age at the grocery store, which is old. And, lo and behold, what did I see? I see a person with a hoodie on. I see 3 or 4 people with hats on. I see people in pajamas. I see people in flip-flops. And so I think we're thinking about our dress code like the dress code of the 50s. Would I like everybody to be wearing penny loafers and chinos and cardigan sweaters and Vitalis grease-backed hair? Maybe, but I think society has changed and we need to change with it. I think we need to understand that our student styles are important to who they are and what they stand for. And I think we are not precluding safety by allowing them to wear their hats and their hoodies. And if it is a problem, administration always has the right to ask students to remove their hat or remove their hoodie for anything that impacts the school environment. But to just create a policy, and by the way, our policies have always been overriding statements, and we've let the regulation be up to the administration, because they're the folks that have the experience at managing our schools and our students. And I think it is really questionable that those of us who sit on a board, 9 people, can usurp the authority and the knowledge of our professional educators who are paid and charged to make those decisions. So I see no groundswell of support for this change in this policy, and I object to it coming to this full board.
Thank you. At this time, I am going to request a roll call vote, please. So I'll give Ms. Daly a moment to prepare for that.
Can I make one more comment, please?
This will be the final comment.
All right, thank you. Just 2 quick things. I agree with pretty much everything that Commissioner Wilson said, except I don't want to see greased back hair come back. And the other thing is, I think that if we want our students to respect us, then we need to respect our students.
Thank you.
Moving on.
Commissioner Carlson,
Yes.
Commissioner Dubey,
Yes.
Commissioner Giantonio,
Yes.
Commissioner Pons.
No.
Commissioner Skolenka,
Yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Yes.
Commissioner Taggarello.
Yes,
Sorry,
it's okay.
Commissioner Vibert,
Oh,
Commissioner Wilson.
No.
The motion passes 6-3.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is new business. I don't believe there is any new business to come before the board this evening. So we can move on to building reports. Dr. Dieter, would you like to take BAMES?
Yes, thank you. And Ms. Landon, if you can just run the pictures when I'm doing the voiceover. The project continues to progress. We've been effectively managing issues that have been related to supply chain and COVID workforce. We continue to track on budget and on time. The second lottery poll is underway. Notifications have been happening, as Dr. Carbone reported earlier this evening. We have now been referred to as Captain Carbone and the guy with the funny tie in our show going around to students. So we had a little chuckle about that. Prior to the holiday break, the project did receive a generous gift from QAM, specifically architects Rusty Malik and Angela Cahill presented to the City and Building Committee a gift in the total of $25,000 to be applied toward restoration efforts within the theater space. I just want to point out this represents the second such gift to the project and matches a previous donation of $25,000 from the D'Amato Downs Construction Company. We're grateful for these generous gifts and the expert care and skill that has been evident throughout the project. I want to draw your attention to a local company that has recently restored the theater light, Melnick Metals, which is right around the corner. These artisans restored the theater light, which is original to the building. And we will be raising it back into the structure sometime next week. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
One quick question. I saw at the very beginning, was that a picture of generously sized lockers that I saw?
In fact, that was.
And will those be generously sized lockers available to the high school students that are attending BAMES?
They will not.
Okay, one can only dream and hope. Thank you.
Successful approximation.
Okay, next to discuss the Southside School HVAC project, Mr. Callahan.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Southside is, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, Southside is moving along quite well. We have substantially completed all the construction. We're now working through the testing and balancing, and we're also working through the punch list. We'll be doing closeout very shortly. So this pretty much concludes our construction work, and we'll be closing out the project with the current building committee. Any questions?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will move on to our information and liaison report segment of the agenda. This month is our elementary liaison reports. I will start first online. Are there any commissioners who are liaisons to elementary schools who would like to speak?
I am.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes, I had a chance to speak with the principal of Hubble, and she was on tonight and able to speak about some of the things that are happening. She also updated me on what the staff and students are working on to teach and master grade level learning that targets and that is targeted for student success. Teachers are forming vertical alignment by finding new and creative ways to engage students in their learning using technology. They are seeing consistent growth in reading and math student data and are so proud of their students. Their staff has been working very hard to get the kids excited about school. Before Thanksgiving, they had their first annual Turkey Derby, and Miss Gluce's second graders won. Mrs. Bouchard and Mrs. Carrero, I'm sorry if I murdered that name, planned fun spirit days for December and January to motivate their learners. They also had a surprise visitor during the last week of December. Their students named the visiting elf Sprinkles, and he caused all sorts of mischief in their classrooms. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online?
Yes, Commissioner Vibert. For Southside, the staff and families participated in CCMC's PJ Day, and they were able to donate $550 in gift cards to kids undergoing treatment. This was started as a tradition when Southside's own Connor Albert was undergoing treatment there. You all remember Captain Connor. And his mom picks up the gift cards and brings them to CCMC. Southside has a lot of family events. The next one is the Southside Virtual Bake Off. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I don't have a specific elementary school, but since we are at the information part of the agenda, I think this is appropriate. It actually was the positive end to my public comment that I couldn't administer there, but it has to do with staff. And so the information I wanted to share was that I wanted to applaud the staff that worked diligently to bring back some sense of normalcy around the December timeframe and that time of year where we traditionally engaged in holiday workshops, shopping opportunities for our students. PTAs work really hard to bring a lot of those activities back to our students and the administration that supported it. I applaud all of them. And I am always a huge fan of Festivus. And I want to thank you, thank all of the staff for making that a priority for our students this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sturgeon?
Thank you. As the liaison for Ivy Drive, I had the opportunity to visit the school on December 7th. I had a great experience touring Ivy Drive School with Principal Gomes. In addition to the information she presented and the questions she answered, her ability to greet each student we encountered in the hallways by their first name was quite impressive to me. It demonstrated the real connection she and her staff have with their students, and that was reciprocated by the students as well. During my visit, I saw success criteria visuals on the kindergarten and first grade lockers, which is helping students in their independence upon arrival to the school. I saw the sensory path in the kindergarten pod, which is used for students who need movement breaks during the day. I actually saw a kindergartner using that at that time, and you can see that it was very beneficial to that little boy. Second graders, during the tour, we saw them working on their word study and foundations lessons. Fourth graders are working on enrichment activities and using the RACE rubric. And I also saw the outdoor classroom and the raised garden beds in one of the courtyards, which students can't wait to get back out and use. Some of the fun things happening at Ivy Drive during the month of December where students participated in Pajama Day and held a Toys for Tots toy drive. Pajama Day raised over $500 for CCMC, and Toys for Tots resulted in 4 large boxes of toys donated to the Marine Corps Reserves. Ivy Drive also had a very successful holiday bazaar run by their PTA, where students were able to shop for gifts for their loved ones. This is the first time since COVID that this event was able to happen safely, and a big thank you to the PTA for making this happen. The students loved it. Ivy Drive also won their second cross-district ST math competition against Southside School. However, they are still waiting for Dr. Huber from Southside to visit his school in his penguin costume, and I promised that I would mention that. He owes them a visit in his penguin costume. 4 faculty at Ivy Drive, staff members there wrote and will be awarded mini grants from the Business Education Foundation. The mini grants will fund initiatives and resources needed to enhance students' learning. One example is library media specialist Alyssa Goke wrote a grant to purchase a marker box for STEAM and STEM education. And then looking forward into 2022, Principal Gomes notified me that Mr. Brian Burke, Bristol Public School Director, Communication, Community Partnerships and Strategic Planning, and Principal Gomes collaborated with Lindsay Rivers from Public Works and David Folds, Director of Food Service, to write and submit a grant for a farm to school initiative. And we're hoping to hear from that soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Lusitani, do you have anything that you'd like to share with us this evening?
No, not at this time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other information or liaison reports to be shared?
Through the
Have
chair.
information.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, whoever that was. I'll wait. I'll go last.
Commissioner Skolinka said you can go first.
All right, thank you very much. This is kind of information. I think it's important that we as a board have the services of a parliamentarian at our meeting. At our last meeting, there was a point of order called that was totally wrong, and that needs to be corrected. It has not yet been corrected, but it does need to be corrected. And I've heard things tonight that were wrong as well. I think that we need a parliamentarian to make sure that we are handling our meetings, conducting our meetings appropriately.
Thank you, Commissioner Rivera. That has been taken care of, and I can discuss that with you further. Commissioner Skalenka? Commissioner Skalenka?
I just have an email I forwarded to everybody with a video from Principal Farrell over at Stafford. That's all. It's a pretty nice video it's basically a screenshot of their whole year of 2021. It's a pretty good video. So it's a little long, but I enjoyed watching it. That's it.
Thank you for forwarding that along. Say again. Correct. That was information. Yeah, okay.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to table, moving into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
I would just like to further clarify that the tabling would be until the following month, correct?
Regular meeting.
Regular, right? Yes.
My motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
At this time, I will clarify the wording. I would like to make a motion to table convening into executive session until the next Board of Ed meeting in February 2022.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
For a
Aye.
correction, hold on, point of order.
Go
It's
ahead.
not tabling, it's postponing.
Okay, we're making a motion then. Would you like to amend your motion to postpone until?
I will happily amend my motion to use the word postpone substitution in the sentence that I just said.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I don't,
Motion
I feel like I
passes.
have to abstain because I don't know why we're doing this. I wasn't given any information.
Okay,
Karen, you're muted.
During discussion, I wanted to say, but there was a lot of discussion going on. Why is this being offered? Why is this motion happening?
I will
is
discuss
the
this with
reason?
you at the conclusion of the meeting, Commissioner Vibert. Thank you. Okay,
Can someone
I-
discuss it with me too at the conclusion?
of course, yes. Okay, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the first meeting of 2022.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.